What's up, guys? Horror Man back for another review. So today we have a very long awaited review. This is something that's taken forever to get to us. So here is the Mezco Toyz 1989 Batman. Now, of course, this is the 112 collective version, which is their almost like a shrunken down Hot Toys kind of format. So just taking a look at the packaging here, I love that you have that classic black and gold, just movie logo style. You got the 112 logo at the top, Batman at the bottom left, DC Comics, and of course that 1989 Batman logo. Over to the side, you get that classic kind of Toy Biz era, or just that classic 89 marketing where it's got the kind of gold and black. And you've seen a lot of companies try to replicate this. Even the NECA one kind of had that same type of packaging. But I always remember it from that Toy Biz figure. Over to the other side, same thing. Over to the back, some really cool pictures of the figure and those classic 1989 moments. Really nice photography. And then to the bottom, just some of the warnings and different copyright logos. So without further ado, let's get this out of the box and have a closer look. The figure itself will come in that classic like clamshell packaging, so you can expect everything to be like nice and tucked away in there, so you can store it all in there if you don't want to leave it all out. You do get some basic instructions how to care for the figure, and then this one specifically gets a fairly big write-up for how to basically assemble the figure, like in terms of how to swap the heads, how to move the eyes. One of the head sculpts has movable eyes, and then how to put the cape on, which is like impossible. I guess it's not impossible because I did it, but it will take you some time. And then how to basically move the figure around. So this figure is almost like a stop motion puppet. It has like more of an armature inside than like an actual figure. Alright, so here he is outside of the packaging. Now, as you can see, I've already got the cape on. Now, I want to tell you two things about this. First off, the wired cape is extremely hard to put on. So far, I haven't been able to put it on, so I'm hoping I can get it on for this review, but I can't guarantee it. The second thing is both capes really don't drape well at all. At all. They just fluff out way too much. They like really puff out. And I'll show you how bad it looks in a minute. But I wanted to show you like a quick trick to fix this. So what I did is I kind of positioned it the way I want and folded the cape back. And I use these giant magnets. So I got one on the back of it, and then I have one like all the way in the back behind the figure. And what it does is it kind of just lets it hang. This is how he usually looks in this movie. The cape just kind of hangs over him the whole time. And it's a heavy cape. You don't see this cape really blowing in the wind a lot. But you mainly see it kind of draped. So I wanted to kind of replicate that. And if you want to, you could still kind of like pose the cape back, even with that magnet, so you can get movement out of them. But yeah, I think it was a pretty quick, cool fix, and it doesn't like permanently alter the cape. So I'll try to cover as much as I can with my review. I think I'm just going to do the articulation segment with the cape on. At least I'm going to try to do that, because I don't think I really want to take this cape off again. But we'll definitely take a look at some different accessories, interchangeable parts. Definitely do some comparisons later on with some other figures of 89 Batman and just some other different characters. And then I'll give you my final thoughts as well as a slideshow of pics. So let's go ahead and take a look at these head sculpts. So taking a look at the first head sculpt, this is going to be a bit of a gimmicky head sculpt, kind of in line with some of those Hot Toys ones. But I really do like the expression here. It's just that neutral kind of stoic expression. But I really do like the look. Now you will get this pretty much the same expression on another head sculpt, but this one has a dial in the back that allows you to move the eyes. And they move okay. I mean, it's not perfect, but they do move pretty good. And then the back of this just has like this little control, so you would just move that to the left and to the right. Now, one thing I really love about all these head sculpts, and I'm sure some people might disagree with me, is that you don't have that cut in the cow to make his head turn. I'm sure people that love the articulation hate that, that they didn't do that. But that's just not the way it looks in the movie, and I'm glad they didn't like sacrifice the aesthetic to do that. And where this eye rolling movement comes in is you can kind of give him that side eye look. So even though he's looking this, or his head is going this way, his eyes are looking toward the camera. So that's definitely a benefit to this particular head sculpt. So like I said, if you don't like that kind of gimmicky head sculpt, you do have pretty much the same exact head sculpt, just without that rolling eye gimmick. So it doesn't sacrifice any of the aesthetic. Back of the head looks good. So to get the head sculpt off, it's very easy. You just pop it off. It's just on there with a magnet, and you have a magnet on the underside of the cow, and then you have this magnet in the body, and you have to get this cape nice and flush. There's even like a little part, like a little tab or something that goes right in there. It is really hard to get that cape on, but it is possible. And then you just magnet these new head sculpts right on there. And once it's on, yeah, it's definitely what looks to be the same exact head sculpt as the eye rolling movement. And this is my favorite of the head sculpts, I think. I just really like this just, neutral expression. Looks really, really good. So very happy with the likeness and sculpt. This head sculpt is very, very similar to the neutral head, but he does have his mouth just slightly open, and he has kind of looks like he's talking. And then for the final head sculpt, it's a really different one. You get basically what he looks like after he crashes the Batwing when Joker, shoots down the Batwing with that long gun. So of course, when Batman finally resurfaces from the wreck, he's got this big cut on his face with some blood showing, and he also has his mouth kind of open, so you can definitely tell he's a bit winded or a little, just battle damaged. So this is your battle damaged Batman head sculpt, and this is probably my second favorite. I really like this one. Alright, so taking a look at the body of the '89 Batman, I think this is where a lot of people kind of are torn on this figure. And I think it's just a couple things, really. For one, it's not like a Hot Toys. Hot Toys doesn't use armatures. They use real figure bodies underneath of the suit. So the one thing good about the armature is because it's an armature, it can hold the pose better, whereas Hot Toys sometimes won't hold the pose as well. But there's also some bad things about this, because the armature can easily break. I think my left arm on him might be already defective, and I've seen a couple other people have the same issue as me. But for me, I don't like the texturing at all. I mean, I hate it. The problem with the texture is it's definitely not accurate from all the pictures I've seen, and I've seen this movie a lot. It's just over textured. And then also, I haven't even sprayed it. I've seen people use 303 and some Armor All and other things. I haven't sprayed it because I do photography and I don't want the highlights blown out. And you can see that even with these lights, it's already getting kind of blown out. So it's got a shine to it. Now that chalky kind of stuff, that kind of started to come off not long after I was handling this figure. It's not completely gone. You can still see some of it. But it probably will just come off over time, like they said. But yeah, man, I don't know. I do love the, they got it right. They got the armor right. They got the belt right. But it's definitely weird, It's kind of like this squishy type of material. And it's definitely kind of weird, man. I don't know what else to say. It's just different. And then down to the lower half of the figure, again, you have that crazy texturing. Now, I will say the belt is loose. It's really loose. It just kind of just flops around. You can get it positioned right and it'll sit, but it definitely will move on you. I do like the shin pads, or the boots with the armor around the shins. They look really good. Just those classic Batman shoes. Now he does wear Nikes in it, but they don't have the Nike logo on these shoes. I don't have the original Hot Toys, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I know my Batman Returns doesn't have that Nike check either. And here's the back of the figure. You do get some good details in like the back of the armor. You don't really see like the back of this costume really ever in the movie because he always has the cape on. But yeah, they definitely did give us some nice details anyway. And here's the cape without the magnets, so you can see how big this thing looks. Now with the wired version, it is a little bit better because you can kind of crumple up the wires and make it look like it's flowing and whatnot. But that's just kind of like not fixing the issue here. The issue is it just flares out way too far. Definitely a misstep, and I feel like they didn't even try. It feels very, I don't know, just doesn't seem like they tried at all. Alright, so let's go ahead and go over the articulation a bit. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and try to do the articulation with the cape on. So maybe that's something you guys haven't seen yet. First and foremost, you really don't get much out of the head. You know, you can still move it because it's on a magnet, but you're really not going to get much at all. And now, when you move this figure, you want to do basic movements, like go straight out when you're moving the arms. So if you want to do the T-pose, just get your arms, straight out, just go straight up and down. Try not to move in weird directions. I know that sounds odd, but just be careful because it's very, very stiff when you're moving this thing. So his arms can go all the way down, go up pretty far. So you can get him in that Superman pose. Like 90 degree, better than 90 degree really. And it kind of gives like a little bit of a muscle. It just seems like there's something weird here. Like maybe with the arm. So I'm not sure if that's defective or just something odd about the figure. If you want to put him in the Batmobile, he could sit pretty good. So I think he'll sit in there just fine. Get the leg out pretty far. So he can go really far up with the leg. So he could do a pretty good kick. And then the knee, get that joint right. Yeah, he could do a crazy knee kick. So yeah, he's got some damn good articulation. And it's very stiff. But yeah, he's pretty damn, he can really hold a pose good. Like I said, he's kind of like a stop motion puppet. The wrist can move just fine. That just moves just like a regular figure. The gauntlets move too, but they're a little tough to move. The gauntlets have been the biggest struggle for me. See how the arm wants to flex back? I can't really move this gauntlet. But this one, I can move just fine. So that's where my struggle is with this thing. This gauntlet right here, that's where I think something's wrong. The feet, again, just like a regular figure, articulation. This is all plastic down here, and the boot can rotate. But yeah, man, so overall, he's actually got really good articulation. And like I said, if you can get that magnet on there, you can fix that cape up just fine. I mean, you can't even see the magnet. So you do get all the accessories in the tray with the figure, and they're all pretty clearly displayed, so I'm just going to do a quick rundown for you. So you do get 4 batarangs, and they're all exactly the same from what I could tell. You do get the grapnel gun with a line to shoot out of it. You get, it looks like a folded grapnel gun, or that piece like when him and Vicky Vale are like, gliding, or at least trying to glide up away from all these goons. And then you also get a bunch of hands, so you get 8 hands in total. So you get some relaxed ones, gripping ones, fisted ones, and just different ones for holding certain weapons. You do get a little communicator, they call it Batmobile, and you get another Batarang with a rope on it. And then you do get a really cool line launcher, and I'll show that too. You also get a little bag to put all the accessories in, you get a stand. So it does cover pretty much most everything he used in the movie. Changing out the hands is pretty easy. It's no real different than any other Mezco. Just pop it off, and it's just this tiny little wrist peg. Once you get it in, you can equip him with the Batarang. And the Batarang for this movie is pretty cool. I mean, it's fairly basic, but I do like it. I've always liked this design, and you can see the inner part of the gloves has like a armor on it. And like I said, see how this like it's weird. It's something wrong with that. But yeah, the hands interchange just fine. And I do like the look of the Batarang. Here he is with that little communicator, so he can call the Batmobile whenever he wants. And I tell you, man, this is one thing I'm probably never going to take out of this box. It is tiny. So if you have carpet in your house, just leave this in there. Don't even take it out of the box. Aside from the regular Batarang, you do get one with a wire. So if you want to wrap up one of your bad guys, like from the beginning of the movie, you could do that. Here he is holding the grapnel gun if you want to have him like in a pose, like he's getting ready to glide his way up to safety, and he does hold that pretty good. You do get this really cool little attachment for the grapnel gun, which is basically like a line with a hook on the end, and you can see I'm only focused on the hook. And I really do like this attachment. You can see the wire here, and you have the hook at the very end. And if you want, you could just put the hook only in the grapple gun as well, and it looks really, really good. So this is definitely going to be the accessory I'll probably have him pose with the most. And then you also have this really cool like gauntlet kind of line launcher that he uses in the movie. And this is a really, really elaborate piece. This is probably the best, next to the grapple gun, this is probably the best like gadget that he comes with. So these parts move, which is really cool. So you can just bend them to the side. And then this is where he would like shoot out the line. So I remember the scene where he, has this right in front of Joker's face. So really cool. So it just like attaches right on his arm. It's kind of loose, but if you get the hand just right in there, it should fit just fine. You also get a couple more little gadget accessories. So in his right hand, you got the bat bomb, and that's actually got some really good details in it. There's like a little readout, like you can't see it, but there's a little readout, like a number on there. And then again, you have like the folded grapple gun, and I'm pretty sure this is what he puts on his belt, and him and Vicky Vale kind of like just glide up to safety, or at least they try to, but she lied about her weight, so Batman doesn't get away. Alright, so the final accessory that you get with Batman is going to be the wired cape, and it looks just like the other cape, and it has that same really annoying collar piece that seems impossible to lock in. Now this one, like I said, it is wired, so you can see how like I can bend these around, and then you can kind of bend like most of them, not all of them. Like this one has a wire, this part doesn't, this one doesn't, and then this one does. So it's like every other stitched piece has a wire. But yeah, it's really hard to get on, so I'm not real happy with that. You also do get a stand, and this stand is just as bad as the cape. Like, what happened here? That is definitely not the '89 logo. Like, look at that logo on his mask here, his cowl. That is not the right logo. This is just a basic Batman logo. So that's pretty cheap of them to do that. And then here's the stand. If you want to do a flight stand with it, you basically just have to pop out this like peg in the back that's right here. But if you want, you could stand him on there. He honestly doesn't even need a stand, and since that looks nothing like the '89, logo, I'm probably not even going to bother using it. And then the one last thing I want to show you, I talked about how I put this magnet on the back here, so you can see how like the grapple gun will stick to that magnet. But so there's a magnet in that grapple. But where is this supposed to go? Because there's no magnet on the belt. So my guess is they thought maybe this metal body would actually hold these little magnets, but there's no way that's going to hold. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something, but there's nowhere to store this stuff on him. And this is about as good as I can get him to put his cape up, like that famous scene in the movie. Alright, so for the first comparison, this is probably the one most people are going to want to see. Here he is with the 1989 Batman made by Mezco Toyz. And amazingly, these guys are actually way closer in height than I was expecting. Like, they are almost the same size. So I do think you could probably interchange the cowl if you wanted to put this Mezco one on the NECA. It's about the same size. But I've liked this one forever. Like, that's been my favorite, one of my favorite figures for a while. I really do love it. I will say the Mezco one, I do like the likenesses better. Pretty much all the head sculpts have a little bit better likeness than the NECA one. I like the logo, it's a little bit more cleaner on the chest there. The color of the belt is more authentic, so this is more yellow, this is more gold. That was always like this huge argument which color it was supposed to be. But yeah, overall, I do think the Mezco one is better. It's got even with the cape being as annoying as it is, it still, I think, is a better cape than the NECA one. But this is a great figure, and it's honestly, this is close to 10 years old. So to compete, for a $30 figure to compete with a $130 figure, almost 10 years later, that's a big statement. Here he is with the NECA Tech Shield Batman, which is a Dark Knight Collection Kenner throwback figure that they made. And then also a bit of a kit bash / custom. You have basically an unmasked Batman, kind of like that old Kenner quick change Batman. I wanted something that kind of mirrored that. So it's basically a NECA figure with the face popped out of the cowl. And then this is a custom Bruce Wayne head that my buddy Does Machines 84 painted for me. So again, they look really cool next to each other. Here he is with the Mattel Alfred figure, and this came with a Michael Gal 89 head sculpt, which looks really, really good. And it really complements the NECA one, so I figured I'd try it with the Mezco. He does seem a little tall, but keep in mind that in real life, he was 6 foot, and Michael Keaton's 5'9", so it's not that far off. And then you have the Joker. Now this is the original Mattel body from the same line as that Alfred. But again, my buddy Does Machines 84 did a cool custom paint job. I got the Joker head sculpts on eBay, and he painted that for me. The hat is removable, and I even have a skin tone face sculpt with this, so I'll probably show that in the slideshow. For your final NECA comparison, here's Batman next to the Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1990 film, and then you have the Christopher Reeve Superman from that original 70s Superman flick. For the first Mezco comparison, here he is next to the 112 Collective The Crow figure, which I think is one of Mezco's best figures. And you can see how he has very similar clothes with all the leather and everything, but this is so much more functional, man. He's got bendy wire everywhere on this thing. And here he is with the Batfleck from the Batman vs. Superman movie, and I think they do look really good next to each other. Here he is next to the Mezco Superman Christopher Reeve, and I actually have never opened this. I've had it in the tin waiting for this 89 Batman to arrive, but I do think they look really good next to each other, so I'm definitely happy to finally have my Mezco World's Finest. Even if you don't have this Mezco Superman, the NECA one looks about the same size. Now the NECA one's probably even harder to find, but it is kind of interesting how they're all around the same height. Here he is with some of the Mafex figures. So you have the Batman from Batman Begins, and then you have the Scarecrow from Batman Begins, and then you also have the Suicide Squad Joker, and this is like the regular Joker combined with another one that included the straight jacket. But you can see they scale okay together. They don't look too bad. Here he is with the Marvel Legend Mobius, at least the body is Mobius, and it has a custom Dirty Harry head sculpt on here. And then you have the Figuarts Harley Quinn from Suicide Squad, which is definitely my favorite Harley Quinn figure. For your slightly larger scale comparison, here he is with the Storm Collectibles Scorpion, and that's the first release. And then also the Robert Pattinson The Batman figure, and that's made by McFarlane. And you can see that these are just a little too big to be in scale with this Batman. Here he is with the stylized Mezco figure, and I did a review of this a while back. I always like this design. It kind of reminds me of those old like Cracked or Mad magazine drawings of Michael Keaton, or even that like Tiny Toons version of him. But one thing that is very similar about these guys is this does have that rolling eye movement, and that's what they were going for with this version. So you do have the rolling eye on both of these. Alright, and for the final comparison, here he is with some vintage Batman figures and one of the mini-mates. So you have the mini-mate made by Diamond Select Toys. You have the Dark Knight Collection Crime Attack Batman made by Kenner. You have the 1989 Toy Biz Batman with that really cool rope belt. And then finally you have this really cool little clip-on like ornament thing from 1989. Alright, so that's my review of the Mezco Toyz 112 Collective 1989 Batman. And for the most part, I'm going to say that I'm pretty happy with this figure. You really can't get past the aesthetic. I mean, this does look fantastic. You have a seamless body, so you're not going to see any of the joints. Just the realistic look of the face sculpts, of the armor. It does look really, really good. Now, as much as I love the aesthetic, the biggest problem for me with this figure is the cape. And I thought it would be the body that I have a problem with, but it's really just that cape, because the body is a lot more articulate than I expected, but that cape really limits it. So you really have to figure out, like, whatever you want to do. If you want to use the magnet, you want to use some kind of paper clip or something, you really have to figure out how you're going to fix this cape up to where you can actually pose this thing around and have a good experience with it. Once you get that cape situated, you get some accessories on them, get the head sculpt you want, pose them up a bit, this thing's going to light up your shelf. So yeah, that's going to be my final verdict on this one. Definitely some flaws, but definitely, in my opinion, the best 89 Batman figure out there in this scale. So thanks for watching my review. If you liked it, go ahead and leave a like. If you have a question or comment, go ahead and do that. And until next time, guys, see ya.